So we're back for another week of Guinness Six Nations fantasy rugby action. And of course, we're back with another team selection video. If you enjoy these videos, then please hit that like button and remember to subscribe, as I'll be doing these all throughout the Six Nations. So let's just get straight into my team. So first of all, I've picked a very heavy French and Irish front row, because I think the game will be very tight in terms of the scoreline, but also in the way it's played. Of course, both sides will wish to play expansive, but looking at the weather, this might put a dampener on things. Excuse the pun. So, I've gone with Tadhg Furlong, Julian Marchand and Andrew Porter. The reason behind picking these two Irish props is because they get through so much work compared to other props. Similar to Genge really, who loves carrying and tackling hard. But obviously England are playing Italy and we don't want to waste the space on a prop. Last week, both Porter and Furlong scored around the 30-point mark, and I think they will have similar stats again this weekend. And as for Marchand, well, with my thoughts on the game being tight, I think the French crowd will get behind their rolling maul, and hopefully we'll see a try or two. Marchand was somewhat disappointing last week, but I have faith in the French pack's revival. But saying that, Marchand was actually the second highest scoring hooker of the whole round, so maybe just a bad week for hookers. In the second row, I've stuck with Johnny Gray, as he performed well for me last week, and also James Ryan. With Ryan being named as captain, I would hope that he would score high points just as he did last week. Between them, they made around 25 tackles alone, and I expect both their games to be physical and attritional, so I hope they can both get good points for me again. Now, in the back row, I had a lot of deliberation here, and I don't think I'm actually set on this back row, but for now, this is my idea. I've got Basham, Aldrit and Ferguson. Of course, all of these performed brilliantly last week, so I'm hoping they can continue their form. I expect Basham to do the same against Scotland as he did with Ireland, to carry and tackle so much. Also, if he picks up another try again, that will be handy. I picked Aldrit because I feel like this could be his sort of game. An attritional battle with lots of hard carrying, and as they're the home side, and hopefully some line breaks too. But obviously, there are cheaper picks who could do just as well as a job, like Gelange, who actually scored last week. So for now, I think I'm staying with Aldrit. And finally is Matt Ferguson. After a man of the match performance last week, I couldn't not put him in. But my worry is I'm just basing this off all form, and not experience and stats. For example, I could switch to Hamish Watson, who I know will tackle well and play out this skin. So again, another hard decision, but I think I'm sticking Ferguson for the moment. At halfbacks, I've gone with Harry Randall and Dan Biggar. Now you may be looking at the screen thinking, really? But yes, I have picked these two. My reasoning behind Randall is that Eddie Jones keeps on about this New England style of play that we're really yet to see. But I think Randall's game suits this upcoming fixture against Italy, so I'm hoping for lots of running meters. I know Youngs is on the bench and Randall will probably come off around the 60-minute mark, but hopefully the damage would have already been done. But you never know. And my thinking behind Biggar is that Wales are at home, at the Principality Stadium. If this doesn't kick their tournament into gear, then I don't know what will. Scotland are also notorious for playing outstanding one week and then falling below par the next. I'm not saying that's my prediction, but I guess I'm playing it safe by having more than one Welsh player in. And also Sexton was going to be my pick, but he's obviously injured. In the centres, I've picked a pretty formidable pairing in Slade and Fickou. Now Slade could potentially be my captain in this team, because I think he's probably the most experienced England player in that back line. But I've chosen someone else instead for now, which is probably more of a risk. And as for Fickou, well, I expect him to have a stormer of a game. Fickou seems to always deliver for France, and with Sean Edwards naming him as his defence captain, I believe the game will be suited to Fickou. So let's just hope for some good points. but obviously I'm leaving out the informed Aki and Ringrose, which is a risk. So let's see how this one goes. And as for the back three, I've picked Jack Nowell, Max Malins as my captain, might I add, and Stuart Hogg. So let's start with Nowell and Malins. For me, my mistake last week was not picking both wingers for France, who were against Italy of course, so this week I'm hopefully correcting my mistakes. I would also be fuming if I didn't pick Nowell and then he went on to score 6 tries. So I had to have them both in. I also think Nowell will be hungry to prove himself, and to Eddie as well, that he should be one of the starting wingers when Watson and May come back, as I believe he has that quality. And as for Malins, well, last week he was England's top point scorer in fantasy, with 116 running metres made. So I do expect him to run and hopefully finish off chances for England this weekend. And that's probably mainly why I've put him as my captain. And finally, Stuart Hogg. Well, I don't think I have to explain this one too much. He's up against a weakened Wales side, albeit at the Principality. But if Scotland want to really kick on in the Six Nations, then Hogg will be a key player in doing that. So the Scotland captain for me is a pretty safe pick this week. And finally, onto my bench. I actually have spare money to spend on my bench, as my starting team was relatively cheap. I do have big names in Dupont and Darcy Graham. I thought that if France do go on to win the game against Ireland, that Dupont will be key in that win, much like Hogg for Scotland. And I believe Darcy Graham can have another good performance. I do think Scotland have a pretty formidable back line at the moment, and he's going to be an essential part of that. And as for my super sub, well, I've stayed clear from Malvaca and gone with his opposite number in Sheenan. I'm still quite tentative about this because I know how important this super sub is. Malvaca and I have got some trust issues at the moment, so I don't think I'll be picking him for this week. I think the French maul has to prove to me that they can do a job. And I also think overloading on English players in my starting team will do me well, as opposed to putting one as my super sub and lose me points as Malvaca did last week. But at the moment, I've gone with Sheenan, who had a pretty decent impact off the bench last week. And if Ireland do win that game in France, it will be in the final 10 minutes. So really, I guess I'm juggling between Malvaca and Sheenan, but right now it's Sheenan for me. So that's the end of the video. Let me know down in the comments what you think of my team selection and what you guys are doing with your team selections. This week was tougher than last to pick, and I still don't think I'm fully set on this team. So I'll leave the video there, and I hope you guys all do well this week. I'll be keeping an eye on the JG Rugby League to see if I move up in the rankings. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in next week's roundup video.